Hey everyone, Board Game Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a new card game that might blow your brains out, or at least eat them. It's Oh My Brain by 25th Century Games. So how does this theme mix with its card game? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's summer, and of course you are out camping in the woods. You sit down near the campfire to roast some marshmallows. S'mores, perhaps? Yeah, taste and sound good. Well, what's that sound? Something over there in the bushes. Hordes of zombie animals start to rush toward you. Do they want your marshmallows? No, not at all. They want your brains. Strangely enough, they want to cube your brains and roast it over your own campfire. Your goal in this game is to get rid of these animal cards in your hand before you lose your brains, which will transform you into a zombie and you will lose the game. So there are 50 cards numbered from 0 to 19 in the deck. There are multiples of some numbers, and others, like the higher numbers, only have one card in the deck. You will deal out 3 cards to each player and then look at those 3 cards. Choose one to place in your card holder, which will be referred to as your cemetery. And you will then again do this with another 3 cards, and then a third time. Now you will have 3 cards in your cemetery and 6 cards in your hand. The remaining cards become the swamp deck, placed out in the middle of the table. And then all players start with 9 brain tokens. So players take turns in a clockwise order, and when it's your turn, you can place cards from your hand, obeying the rules, of course, and then refilling your hand to 3 cards, pulling cards to your hand from your cemetery. So the first player can choose any card to start with, but all other players who follow someone else will need to play a card or cards, as you can play more than one of the same number, that is higher than the top card. So you can play a single card or multiple cards of the same number at once. You can never play a mixture of different numbers. If you can't play a card when it's your turn, your brain will be eaten and you lose a brain token. If you were to play multiple copies of the same card at once, you will place one card on top of the played out cards. We will call this pile the campfire. That's what it's referred to as in the game. So one goes in the campfire and the other copies are placed into the cemeteries of any of the other players. Of course, you won't be able to look at the cards in their cemeteries when doing this. This is a good way to delay other players from winning and sticking them with more cards. So getting multiples is really good in the game. So again, if you cannot or do not want to play any cards on the campfire, you'll move all the cards of the campfire to the discard pile beside the swamp deck. You will lose a brain token. If it's your last one, the game ends immediately and the player with the most brain tokens left wins. But if not, you will draw 2 cards from the swamp. One will go into your hand and one will go into your cemetery. Then you will start a new campfire off by playing a card from your hand. When playing through, whenever you have fewer than 3 cards from your hand after you have played cards, you can choose cards from your cemetery to add to your hand until you are holding 3 cards. Refilling your hand is important, and it's important to do it right then and there, as the next player, if they go because you forgot to refill your hand, then tough luck. You have to continue with the cards in your hand until the next turn, where you might or might not be able to refill your hand from your cemetery, as things can happen. What things? Well, some cards have abilities. The 0 is the mosquito card. You can play this card at any time regardless of the value of the top card on the campfire, and this is like a reset card, so it'll help you get rid of those lower numbered cards. The 8 card is the spider. When playing this card, the next player can only play a card that is less than 8. This can disrupt the plans of players, as they might be trying to save their high cards to play later and use their low cards, but when you make them play a low card, they might not have one anymore. The 11 card is the mouse. After playing this card, you will discard the campfire pile. You will refill your hand in the normal way if you have less than 3, and then you will take another turn. This can also help you reset the campfire to start with any of your cards, but also get a cemetery card into your hand that you can or might want to use. Some of the other cards then have a marshmallow icon, this pink cube shown on the top of the card. After playing this card, the die is rolled and the ability shown is performed. This side means steal a brain token. This side means place a card from your hand into an opponent's cemetery. This side means swap your hand or your cemetery with an opponent. You cannot do this with someone's empty cemetery. This one is gain a brain from the supply. This side means each player draws a card from the swamp deck to add to their cemetery. And the last side means take another turn. If you cannot place a card to the campfire, the usual penalty will apply. The round ends when a player finishes their turn with no cards in their hand and cemetery. And when the round ends, all other players will lose a brain token for each card remaining in their hand and in their cemetery. If all players have brain tokens still, a new round will be started. At any time when a player has no brain tokens left, the game ends and the player with the most brains wins. And, well, that's Oh My Brain. You know what they say, no brain, no pain. So this is a silly card game where you're trying to guess the best way to get rid of your hand of cards. One might think the best strategy is getting rid of the lowest cards that you can and keep the higher ones as the pile will increase and you can only play cards that are higher than the top card on the campfire. But that's not exactly true. You know, the abilities on cards can change this strategy so that you have to read your cards, position yourself the best you can. Using or hoping for doubles or even triples is good because you can play more cards on a turn, but also stick other players with cards in their cemetery as well. And cards in your cemetery are harder to get rid of because you got to have one or two or no cards in your hand to take a card from your cemetery into your hand to get rid of them. The game is a little strategic with some luck. It plays quick, it's easy to teach and learn. The components are good, the box is excellent. I wish some of the cost was placed into the components instead of just have a normal box, but I know the game is part of a series, coffee break game series, so they probably all have the same boxes that match this design. But overall, this isn't a bad card game, and my kids have enjoyed it. It's a game to play as an adult when you don't really want to think as much, and it's a game where it's just fun and silly to see what happens, and the lead can swing back and forth while you're playing the game until a player gets rid of their hand of cards from their cemetery, so you never really know who's winning. So save your brains with your family and friends in Oh My Brain by 25th Century Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.